Coming back fresh.
Yes, we are. I don't know how fresh I feel. Dude, these allergies are killing me lately. Absolutely killing me. But today, we are looking at self-assessment to determine whether or not you are or are not compliant.
Yeah, these are questions that you're going to be able to put to yourself and your team to see if you're actually ready for what you do. So stay in. You know the worst thing about arriving at a hazmat scene?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The judgmental looks by everybody on scene when you get off the rig because they are blaming you for the 4 hours they're going to be on scene.
Yeah, but uncertainty is another one, having no idea what's in the air.
Yeah, we could also go with that. That assumption it's just a chemical, it doesn't really cut anymore, right? Because we need answers fast and we need them now.
Right, and that's where the Explorer comes in. It's real-time chemical ID and quantification right in the field.
Which means the whole thought process of it's probably something bad is out the window. This thing tells you exactly what's there and exactly how much.
So you can set up your safety zones like an adult and not a rookie guessing where to put the tape.
And you're doing it with defensible quantitative data within seconds, making decision-making a whole lot easier.
Which means you're not waiting around for an answer. You have the solid, life-saving intel in your hands.
Go check out the meter that's changing the world, the Explorer, and stop guessing. Check out 908devices.com.
And on a hazmat call, the question is never if radiation matters. It's where are you going to find this stuff?
Yes, and half the time you don't find it, it's coming out to find you first, which is why on unknowns, we always check radiation first.
Because you're not seeing it, you're not smelling it, and if you miss it, you're going to probably be in it.
Exactly, which is why so many units and teams are running the Teledyne FLIR Defense Identifinders.
That is not a one-size-fits-all tool. They got the handheld RIDs, they got the wearable personals, and even backpack systems.
So whether you're the first sucker walking into the scene, or you're arriving on scene and the situation's unfolding to a bigger picture, there's some type of application and tool that fits that job.
And these aren't just theory tools. These are out there getting used every day by teams that are actually relying on radiation data to make decisions.
So go search FLIR Identifinder. That's FLIR, F-L-I-R, Identifinder.
And today's episode is brought to you by Rigaku Analytical Devices, who just launched their 4th generation handheld Raman meter, the Icon X.
For fast, safe, and accurate chemical analyzation, visit rigakuanalytical.com. That's rigakuanalytical.com.
Yes, indeed.
Whew.
The question is, are you compliant?
Yes. What a week. Do we want to give them a little bit of background for those that were not at Baltimore?
We probably should, because we were given the opportunity to do the keynote, and we took some time to figure out, okay, what are we going to talk about? And we found a controversial thing, asking people. There's a difference between compliancy and competency, right?
Yes.
And we started having this conversation, and then we brought up a special guest.
Yeah. We brought up Phil McCardle, which was absolutely a phenomenal honor for us, for him to come up on stage with us. And why, just out of curiosity, did they have us do the opening remarks at the ceremony? It wasn't because they think we're spectacular. It wasn't because they think our content is so amazing that they want to share it with the world. It's because they awarded us a Level A honor award, and they wanted to make sure that we were in the auditorium when it happened.
Oh, damn, I should have had it on the table when we were doing this.
We'll bring it next time. Yeah. We were originally told it was a 90-minute presentation. We got about 2/3, maybe half the way through, and we got the 10-minute flash, so there was a tremendous amount that we didn't get to, and we had a lot of people coming up and asking questions. So we figured that we would take the time and talk about the last portion of the lecture, which was the self-assessment, the questions that you want to ask yourself to be able to determine whether or not you're compliant or competent, and then to bring that information to what we lovingly refer to as the bean counters, right? The bean counters are the ones that dish out the money, and they only care about the specific legalities of whether or not you are compliant. So That's the backstory to this episode.
Because there's a big difference, like, and we, for those that weren't there, we had a lot of discussion of the different flavors of what you would call being a hazmat technician, right? Everything from the multiple emails coming in saying, if I train my operations people to all the mission specific competencies, I'm going to have them work as technicians. And we're like, you can't do that. Then there's the people that, and again, there's a good amount of people out there that do this, is that they go down to a specific school and they do a 40-hour hazmat technician, and they are technicians. And then the vast majority of the country does 80 hours. Yep. Some people do 120 hours. Some even do 160 hours. And which one is more gooder? That was a lot of the first part of the whole thing.
And I think that was a real aha moment when we asked that question. And we turned around and we're like, how many people here are technicians? And everybody raised their hand, because who the hell goes to a hazmat conference that's not a technician? Right. And I said, okay, well, who here did 40 hours? And a whole bunch of hands went up. And then who here did 80? And the question was, well, are you more competent because you took that 180-hour course versus the 40-hour course? And the 40-hour course, what didn't you learn in your 40-hour course that these guys got taught in their 160, 180 hours? And this is where we start to evolve from compliance to competency. But it actually turns out that if you're not competent, you're also not compliant. And that's kind of the twist at the end of this whole thing, was that that just checking the box that you're a technician is not actually enough to be compliant. There's a bunch of things that you have to do that are solely based on your authority having jurisdiction, what you respond to, what your roles and responsibilities are, and the tools that you use and how you've been trained on them. So,
right. When you come out of these classes, and again, 40, it's amazing the space between 40 and 160 hours in calling yourself the same thing. And when you come out of your class, it's almost like being an EMT. You're just given enough to say, okay, now you can ask the questions. Now you're certified to go out there and learn now. It's like,
which is
what?
Which is twofold crazy. Right? Like you think about that, like what Bob just said. And I often use the analogy of a probie coming out of probie school, right? Like a probie coming out of probie school doesn't learn how to be a firefighter. They learn how to stay alive until they learn how to be a firefighter. And when we apply that, we're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But then we start to look at not the firefighter ranks, but the chiefs and officer rank, where now these people coming directly out of a hazmat class are placed in charge. And, there's this realization like, holy crap, like, would I put a probie in charge of a fire? So, and then when you make those comparisons, you're like, holy crap, no, I am not competent to do this. And it's an incredible thought process, and it's a very humbling thought process to answer these questions and realize, like, holy crap, like, I really am not as competent or compliant as I thought I was.
Right. So we when we do the consultants and we help departments, agencies, regions, states, whatever it is, establish whether they're compliant versus competent. Are the standards right? Are they meeting their objectives? Are they meeting the regulatory, the directives, the federal regulations, all those things? We've had varying degrees, I'll say, of passing grades. We've had like 30s, we've had 60s, we've had quite a few hundreds. There's I'm not going to say a staggering amount, but there is a select amount of hundreds, guys that are spun up, but the vast majority of them are barely passing, like 70 to 75 rate.
And we have actually had people who we turned around and refused to do training with because they were so far out of compliancy that we didn't want to be part of it. So the gamut runs all the way from 0 to 100. And these are the questions that we ask them, right? And we often start off with a very broad general question in which we ask, are you compliant for your mission? Now, what exactly does that mean, okay? You're a firefighter. You're being tasked with certain roles and responsibilities. So your training has to go above just that 40-hour course, because if you take a 40-hour course and you spend that time doing your C kit, right, and you're learning your A kit and you're learning the chlorine kit, but you turn around and don't have rail, you don't have any kind of chlorine that runs through your response area, then all that was a huge waste, because it turns out you have an ammonia plant, or you have a roller skating rink, or you're farm country and you've got these 331s filled with ammonia all over the place. You were never trained on them. Yes, you have your certificate, but you are not. You were not trained on the mission at hand, because your department requires you to be able to go and interact with this chemical and this device and to fix and mitigate a possible leak, yet you have no actual training on it. That makes you not in compliance, no matter what kind of technician class you took and no matter how many hours it is. The information that you're performing, the things that you're doing, you have to cover that in training in order to even start to become compliant.
It's like a lot of times they do this for the Mayday situations. They call it the Swiss cheese model, right? There's many things that have to go into the cake to make the cake, and so training is a component. The tools that you're given, right? They have to align with it. I've trained to do chlorine C kits, but I don't have a C kit. Like, then you're not compliant. Like, that's not a thing. So, like, one of the things that we advocate for is doing a commodity flow report, right? Finding out what you're going to deal with. What incidents are you actually running? And hell, just go back through your books and find the last 50 types of calls or categorizing, right?
Yeah, and then once you get them, you kind of look at them and all right, what are we dealing with? What are we looking at here, right? I've got fuel spills, I got COs, I got natural gas. Maybe you do refrigerant leaks all the time. Oh, lithium-ion batteries. I don't even want to talk about lithium-ion batteries. Let's say you're going on a whole bunch of unknown odors or drug labs, right? None of these things are really actually covered in a technician class. So you look at what, you look at what Bob said about the commodity flow. That gives you the idea of the potential that you could be responding to, right? Potentials. That gives you that, the matrix where it's low probability, high, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not severity, consequence.
Frequency.
Right? Frequency, right? Low frequency, high consequence. That's what you could be running on. And then this box, what were your last 50? Well, that gives you historical data of what you're responding to on a regular basis. So, high frequency, mild consequence, or high frequency, high consequence. And this is how you start to determine that, because once you've figured out those
you kind of like heat map it.
Yes, heat map, exactly. Then you turn around and you ask yourself, one of the first things you want to ask yourself once you've determined what you're running on is, does my training calendar reflect those incidents?
Okay, so meaning that we're allocating enough hours of either A, the day, like on a regular basis, or B, the refresher, or C, are we additionally putting this into the original training so that all the classes going forward are getting this and we're not doing it on the job? Because that's another part is like, and you know what, everybody wants to make their class bigger, and I think honestly that's how the evolution of how a specific state got to 160 hours. They just kept packing more shit into a 5-pound bag, and they're like, wow, we got a 30-pound bag now. I think it's just like at a certain point you're gonna have to pull stuff out and be like, nobody's doing horse carriage removal anymore. We could take that out now. So if you want to get to that point, but then it comes down to money and all that stuff, and we get that. But the 80-hour, I think, is just the general right size.
Enough to think of it like probie school. Ooh, sorry, allergies, guys. It's enough to keep you alive to learn the job. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what you need to think of any of these technician classes as. And so the answer that I would give to the questions that you just gave is answer D, all the above, right? Because you put in that word or between each one of them. So we're not just choosing one. That or is a huge part of it, because, yeah, I could train on the time. I could allocate an hour to, I don't know, make something up, refrigerants. Great. Okay. But if that hour's time frame doesn't cover all the material I need to safely perform my job that I'm being asked to do, then you are not in compliance, right? You can't even start to become competent because you're not even compliant. And one of the questions, to kind of pare this down to try to get a closer view of it, is we ask ourselves, could we defend our training program to OSHA? So imagine OSHA comes in and they say, why do your responders perform this function? Right? So they turn around and they say that, and the answer is, well, I just kind of figured it out as I went along, right? Imagine that's what one of your hazmat technicians say when OSHA knocks on the door. And OSHA goes, oh, really? Like, so you weren't actually trained in how to figure this out? And they go, no, we just figured it out. And they go, okay, boom. Guess what? You have a problem. What if they turn around and said, show me where they were trained? And you're like, well, we were just trained in a classroom. And they go, so you have no hands-on experience? You don't have, you've never actually performed this task? Boom, you've got a problem.
Yeah, even if you're verifying it, if you're training, like, do we have paperwork on these things? If you can't answer these questions, ask yourself like this serious question where, oh, it's not my problem. It's going to be somebody's problem, right? And then you have to get to the question of like, are we measuring just being there and it being in attendance or capability? But first,
battery fires are absolutely starting to change how we think about suppression.
Yeah, because for years it was just water, and then cool it, hope it chase, and hope it goes away.
That's all I want is for batteries to go away. But they're not going away, and these lithium-ion battery jobs are changing how we look at fire because it's no longer about just putting it out. Now it starts to become, how do we control it? How do we keep it from propagating? How do we keep this thing from reigniting?
So that is where some of these newer agents actually start to make some sense.
Yeah. TRF steps onto the stage from Fire Suppression Solutions. We've been taking a look at this thing, and it's not just about does it work, it's about where does it fit into the process. So this isn't replacing anything that you do, it's giving you another tool in the toolbox in case the problem that you have isn't fixable by the traditional playbook.
Exactly, and you've got something that can just be applied early, it can help limit the spread, and it can give you another option besides just flooding it with water and waiting.
Which is great because everybody operates a little bit differently, right? So they've got different setups depending on how you operate. You need smaller portable options, they've got it. You need bulk stuff because you're dealing with a huge factory down the block, they've got that too.
So this isn't just us saying this is the answer, this is us saying the problem is changing, and this is one of the tools that might make sense in your playbook.
Yeah, we looked into it. We were really happy with it. We want you to look into it too. Go check out Fire Suppression Solutions or hit the link in the show notes to see how TRF Plus can fit into your response model.
Do you know what I love about the city?
Dirty water hot dogs.
No, don't ask me about those things. No, it's the e-scooter gangs.
Yes, because nothing screams hazmat like a moped that's about to go nuclear.
And that's where Obexi and FR saves the day.
Which is great because it's lightweight, mobile friendly. It's designed for us, the first responder, because honestly, the last thing we need while we're responding and things are heating up is extra weight.
And it's third-party tested to lower the toxic gases below the ideal H levels.
So it's protecting your lungs just that little bit, another little layer of protection while you're putting out that scooter fire.
And let's say, perchance, you need more. Obexi and FR comes by the pallet or poly drum kits.
Yeah, which is great for when your butthole puckers up because you think to yourself, oh my God, I'm going to need a lot more of this.
So protect your team and your lungs. Go to the hazmatguys.dgeo.com. That's the hazmatguys.dgeo.com.
All right, so let me ask you, what did you mean by attendance versus capability?
Okay, so capability is a feedback loop, right? So you have to actually then perform it. Attendance means you were there for the hours, you received the stuff, maybe you took a little quiz, but everybody that's listening to this know how quizzes can be, I don't want to say gamed, but worked around.
Listen,
compliance.
we say during that lecture, right, that you got a certificate, that means you either passed the test or the guy sitting next to you passed the test.
Exactly, right. But that does not mean that you're capable. You passed a didactic regurgitation of the information that was given to you, but we a lot of times deal in skills, and that's tangible, functional things that we did. And so A paper test does not tell me you know how to tighten a bolt. Does not tell me you know how to put on a boot. Does not show me how you can put on the layering of gloves, and that is capability.
Right. So what we're not saying don't get rid of the sign-in sheet. That sign-in sheet is super important for when OSHA knocks on your door, right? What we're saying is you need to ask yourself, on top of that sign-in sheet, what evidence do I have that my people can actually perform the task I'm asking them to perform? And that's a key part. That starts to go towards competency. That starts to go towards the idea that I've taught somebody something, they have knowledge of the tools, they have knowledge of the equipment, they have knowledge of the procedure, and they've shown me that they have the ability to perform that function in a way that is in alignment with both safety and the protocols for my department.
Yeah, because Phil said something. It was good. It was, I think, a decent analogy. It was like that. I taught him about the saw, and then he knows how to start the saw and operate the saw. Those are two different components. But the third one is, does he know when to apply the saw to what location, using all that stuff together? And that's the skills, knowledge, and ability is the key.
Right. Is he bringing a roof saw to take down a roll down gate?
Right.
Right. That's the application of the knowledge part. Another question that you want to ask yourself, right? What would training look like if OSHA disappeared tomorrow? What kind of training would I want to continue to do? So the rules and regulations are out the window, right? You are solely tasked to decide what your people learn because OSHA no longer is involved. What things would you want them to learn?
Yes, because if you go to initial class and everything like that, eventually things erode, right? Your performance, your retention, your capabilities, all that stuff goes down. So if we're doing it that way, what are we doing solely because that's the way we've always done it? Is there honest introspection to the curriculum, to your people? I get it. People go in and out. Some people miss a cycle or whatever it might be. You're going to have to take a look at that. And if we built our training program from, let's say, white paper from scratch today, would you still do it the way you're doing it? Let's just pretend that you had no limitations. You had white piece of paper and they said, build the course you want. Would it align with what you're currently doing?
And the things you put in that course, you can never answer the question why, because that's the way we've always done it, right? Like that's the challenge of the question that Bob just asked is, right, you're putting it together. You also have to justify why that piece of information is going in, and you have to justify why a piece of information isn't going in at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. Because the question of what we're putting in is just as valuable as what is not being taught. Perfect example, right? The department that we came from, we did our initial class, and absolutely, as per NFPA, we did the C kit for chlorine. Guess what? The city never has a chlorine rail car running through it. It's against the law. We will never see one. So we don't waste the training time going through an evolution that nobody is ever going to be tasked to do. There's just too much stuff to learn on. So we can justify not putting that in our refresher training because it's not something that we do. So what you're putting in, what you're taking out, and it's all based upon that question as to why. Then we need to ask ourselves, who's teaching us what we need to know and why? And this is a big one for us. This was a big lesson that we learned, probably about 10 years ago, right? When we learned it, we realized that we were drinking from our own pond water. Meaning that, the guys that started Hazmat One, God bless them, they did a phenomenal job. They trained the next generation. That generation turned around and trained Generation 3 trained Generation 4. But that also means that all those, because we've always done it, is now embedded in every generation's training. And nobody really understands why things are done. And they haven't learned that there's maybe another way that somebody else figured out how to do that. Because whoever started the New York City team may not have talked with the people who started the Houston team or the Philadelphia team or the Boston team or the LA team, right? And they may have figured out a better way of doing what it is that we're doing. So it is important to figure out who is going to come in to do the training and have that kind of mixed up. You don't ever want your department to just be in this I only teach myself and I only learn from myself attitude.
Well, it also bleeds into like your training priorities, right? Who is kind of dictating those things? And usually, I don't disagree, it's regulations, standards, laws, insurance, right? Tradition. Or I would say that still addresses all those things is like hazard analysis, incident reviews, local risks, which brings you to the question of like, are you compliant for your mission? Or are you competent, or are you just validating, punching a ticket?
Right. Right. Because when you just do it for competency, you don't really care. But when you're conducting for validation, you're conducting drills that specifically answer the question if you're actually good at doing something. Like, can this drill prove that I'm doing something good? Or am I also, in the other respect, going to find out whether I'm doing something bad? Like, maybe I'm bad at this. So it's funny, we had a conversation with an agency the other day that we were possibly looking to kind of do some partnership with. And they were like, oh, our training, we go and we teach them, and then we have them perform the function, right? Not the function, but evaluate them. We do the scenario. And we go, no, we don't do that. We do just the opposite, right? They're looking to teach so that when they perform, they can perform good. We look to evaluate to see where somebody is bad so that we can then bring them up to the level of everybody else. So there's definitely two different ways of thinking about that validation mark. And both are acceptable, right? One is not wrong versus the other, but the diversity of having both in your training is super, super critical.
Yeah. And so, I mean, to kind of wrap this thing, ask yourself some tough questions. Like, are you compliant for your mission? Like, what's going to keep your team leader awake at night, right? Like that it's probably that incident that you pray never happens.
Oh, yes.
And when that happens, and again, I understand it. You cannot train for every single thing out there, but when was the last time you trained for one of those what ifs?
Or how about the times where you're leaving your shift and you're looking at the crew that's taking over and you're like, I pray to God nothing comes in tonight. Right? And you can't tell me that doesn't happen to everybody listening to this show. If you're listening to this show, you're more than likely not a shitbag technician. You can't tell me there isn't anybody who hasn't walked out of the firehouse going, holy shit, this is either going to be a no incident or I'm going to be going to funerals in a couple days, because like there's going to be no in between. Things that help keep you up at night as well. Like, when was the last time you trained for it? That thing you hope never happens. And as the world changes, are you still compliant with the mission you've been chosen to undertake, right? Things in hazmat and the fire department are always changing. We look at lithium-ion batteries. Nobody's really compliant in lithium-ion batteries because there is no official training on it. So, we have to be up to date with the latest and greatest information. And the same thing goes true with CNG vehicles and hydrogen vehicles. Like, there are lots of things that change on a regular basis, guys. Ask yourselves these questions. Keep yourself in line. If you ever have any questions as to whether or not you are compliant or how to make your training compliant, or you'd like a training partner that will bring your agency into compliance, reach out to us anytime you want. I'm Mike at the Hazmat Guys. Bobby's Bob at the Hazmat Guys. We can answer any questions you have.